Hello guys, this is Pokeland Legend Tips, and today we're gonna have a huge overview on how to build endgame teams. Basically what we're gonna be showing today is the principle or the core of how teams are basically made. Since the update is nearing, so there are gonna be a lot of Pokemons out there, and if you need, since we're gonna cover some of them, of course, after the update, but in the meantime, you would probably would like to know how to form teams by yourself. So that's what we're gonna show you today. We're gonna also go through a lot of endgame teams and each one of them, what's the types and what's the other Pokemons that you can choose from. Okay, so right now basically we have three spots and we have to fill them with three Pokemons that work together. So the key to actually make an endgame team is to find Pokemons that work well together so that they buff each other. And buff means that they give extra stats to one each other. The usually one of these kind of Pokemons are give buffs to the same type of Pokemon. That's why in end game people usually tend to go for the of same type team. For example, electric team or psy team or I don't know, fairy team, dragon team, fly team. So that's why usually people like to go for these kind of Pokemons because they have buffers that give extra stats to the same type. So and for electric team, there is a buffer that gives stat for electrics and so on. So basically what we're gonna do right now is that we're gonna show you how to pick any Pokemon. You just go ahead to the shards and you look at all the Pokemon here that like the legendary that are really worth it. So you just pick one and let's just take the first one like that we see Xurkitree. Then you check the skills. This is I'm showing you how the way of finding end game team on your own without any help. So you just check all the skills and you read if he buffs anybody using any one of his skills, and Xurkitree actually doesn't buff anyone. So you just move on to the next and you can see that you can check again the skills and see if he buffs, and you can see here that wherever you see Terran, then that's a buff skill. So basically Bulu buffs all the allied grass type allied Pokemon. So this is a buffer and you can build your team around the buffer. So when you go to your team, you can look for Bulu, for example, and Bulu gonna, if you read his skill, you can see that he buffs grass type, so you need to fill these spots with grass type. So right now we have Tapu Bulu, which is a buffer and semi-damager as well. So we need a damager in your team because you need damage to kill people. So your damager basically going to be Arceus because he can have a middle plate and he can do a lot of damage. So right now we have a buffer and damager, and for the third spot you can either choose a crowd controller or another support of some sort or another damager. So for this spot you can either choose, for example, Celebi, which is great. He will provide extra buffs for Arceus, that's more attack, and he provides as well health. So he's just we're gonna throw it out there, guys. Celebi is just awesome in all teams, like every single team you can think of. If you put Celebi in it, he's just gonna be awesome. So we're just gonna not gonna include him in any other team from now on because he can actually fit in all. Okay, so again, if you don't have Celebi, you can go for Kartana. So that's another damager. We're gonna show you here the type of Pokemon you can choose. You can choose Shaman, which is a ground controller, and a damager as well. You can choose Kartana here, which is a damager even if it's weak against fire. But I think Bulu will do nice with that. You can choose, let's see, is there another grass Pokemon in here? I don't think there is actually. So yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, Fermosa is grass, no bug. Yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys, for the grass types, and that would be perfect nice end game team. So this is a good end game team. Okay, let's move on to the next one. We're gonna remove all this. Again, the same principle. You need to find a buffer, and we're just gonna throw it out there, guys. Again, all the Tapus like Tapu Buru, Tapu Lele, Tapu Koko, and Tapu Fini are buffers. So if you want to put an end game team, you should start with one of these. Get them first. then build your team around them. So let's choose the Tapu Bulu, which buffs the psychic teams, and you can see here that it buffs the psychic teams. So now we have again semi damager, support, and the buffer. So we need the good damager, which is Deoxys. Deoxys is a great damager in psychic, and he has a lot of meteorites. So you can choose which meteorite you like, and depending on the meteorite you can actually choose the personality as well. So depending on the role you want, we're gonna do another video on that. And again, on the third spot you want either a support or a ground controller or another damager. So for another damager you might want to go for Solgaleo, because basically Psy team lacks AOA, a group damage, basically, and group attacks, so they don't really do well against teams that have a lot of shields. So yeah, Solgaleo doesn't care about shields, and he can kill basically Celebi when it has to, and he has good damage, and he's a good Pokemon overall. So you can go for this team, or you can again go for Celebi. Celebi will stay is OP again in this team. He's psychic, so you can use him, or you can use Morweta for attack when you are attacking. She's great in manual, but she's really bad in auto. So you better find another Pokemon to use instead of that for defense. So you can go for Victini as well. Victini is a good addition lately to the Victini is a good addition lately to the psychic teams, and he has AOA and great hit, great crit. So you can use him as well. Other Pokemons that you can use instead of Solga is basically Lunala. She has poison attacks, and she basically does the same as Solgaleo. She doesn't care about shields, so that's a good alternative. And you can use the Latios and Latias are not for end game, definitely not for end game. So you better not use that. So Lugia in the beginning, if you start and you don't have anybody to use and you just got it from Mist, then just go for it. If not, then there is much better options. Okay, so psychic team is gone, and now we're gonna go for the next, which is Tapu Koko, which buffs the electric teams. Again, you can see here the buff, you can read it, and you can build your Pokemons around it. The Pokemon that's gonna go with it is basically Arceus again. He provides huge damage, and we really like him because of his Perish Song. So he will be the core damager of the electric teams. And in the third spot, again, you need either a support or a buffer, or a support or debuffer, which is a ground controller, or any other damager. So basically for again, Celebi will do us fine here, but we're not going to mention that. Tundrus is basically the perfect teammate right now for these, because he can have a good ground control, and he has a decent speed and a decent damage as well. Not that, okay, decent damage, not that good, but still better than a lot of Pokemons. You can use other Pokemons with them, which are Xuric Tree. He has a great damage, but all his move gain a lot of buffs if the enemy is paralyzed. So we would recommend to use him with Raikou actually. So Raikou is another alternative for Tundrus. He has great speed, but he's pretty much useless with teams with Celebi because he doesn't have good damage. The electric teams, I think this is pretty much it in electric teams. You don't have a lot of choices in electric, so we pretty much have done with that. So now let's move to another team. We have seen grass, Psy, and electric, and well, let's move on to ground fire. So ground fire again, we have seen all the Tapu. No, we didn't see Tapu Fini yet. So let's go for Tapu Fini first. So we'll finish the Tapus, and we will go to ground later. So Tapu Fini again is one of the Tapus. She's a buffer, so she does Misty Terrain for all fairies. So this is a fairy team. It's a good OP team lately. So and with the upcoming update, they're gonna include Arceus Fairy Plate, which gonna make him even more OP in the fairy team. So that's one of the most recommended teams lately. The Pokemon that you can use with this, again, you need the Damager, and the Damager for fairy teams are either Coco or Diancie. You can go with this team. It has a lot of damage, even though that the buffs for Coco and Finny don't stack. Only one of them will apply, which usually is Finny. Coco only apply her buff to the enemy. It doesn't get to 100% damage. It only gets 100%. So Diancie is just OP in this team because it steals buff from the enemy, and it's apply a lot of defense buff for itself. But the perfect teammate here is a support Pokemon. Semi-tank as well is Xeranos. He has a lot of buffs for fairy teams. He buffs skill, speed. He buffs defense, special attack. Here you can see he buffs special attack for himself and for all fairy type damage by 50%. I think there is another one here for rage and heal. This one actually think it buffs some. There is one that buffs speed. I don't know. Wait a second. Where is it? Reduce damage of the enemy by 50%, or maybe I'm hallucinating. Okay, so no speed buff for Xeranos. The more I know. So yeah, well, this is a great end game team again, and especially that Xeranos actually buff Finny's Terran. Here it gets extra stats, so that you might want to have him have a team like this. So I think this is all. This is it for fairy team. You can use semi-fairy teams like with Lele and maybe Coco, Xeranos. You can basically just use any combination you want as long as Finny is there, because she is the main buffer. So yeah, this is pretty much for fairy teams. Let's move on to the ground fire team that we said earlier, and the main buffer is basically Groudon with his skill Sunny Day, and its main teammates are Ho-Ho basically, and where is my Ho-Ho? Should be somewhere here. Ho-Ho, which is a huge damager and a semi-support because of his Sacred Ash that doesn't let other Pokemons die for one turn. And for the other damager or support, so damager, you should definitely go either for Arceus. You can basically go for Arceus ground plate. There is an Arceus ground plate lately, even if it's buggy, so we won't recommend that yet. But still, this is a good end game team. Or you could go for Arceus Fireplate that will come up after the update. Or you could go again for the fan favorite, which is Zigrad, even though it is very expensive. So where is Zigrad Heart? So Zigrad Heart in this form is not that good, but if you make him into his 100% form, he's just OP. In his 50% form, you can see some improvement, but in his second form, he's just it's not that good. So in the third form, he's just very, very, very nice Pokemon. So yeah, this is a good end game team again. You can go here, you can go with Victini if you want, and in the meantime, if you don't have anyone, you can just use ground Pokemon or flying Pokemon or fire Pokemon, just as Garchomp or Charizard or any ground or basically fire would do just fine. But it won't be an end game team. It's just in the beginning if you need solutions, quick solutions to your problems. Okay, so this has been the fire ground team. Let's move on to other teams. The ice water team, which is buffed by Kyogre here. And you can see that the buff skill is Rain Dance. So his teammate should be Arceus, either with Icicle for player vs player or Splash for MR and VB. So this is basically the damager again. And for the third spot, you can either go for Sukune, where is he? Should be here for support. Celebi again would be nice. Again, Celebi would be nice in any team. So just if you're stuck, just put Celebi in there, and it would be fine. So Sukune again does a lot of freezing, so he's really good. He has a lot of speed, and you could also put Aurelian Ninetales. He's fine as well, but sadly his buff take 2 turns to become the same as Arceus. And yeah, you can as well put Regi Ice Regice is fine in this team as well. So yeah, you can put any buffer you want, or you can just remove these two and put the B and V team. We can just like include it right now. Black and white. This is Curums. This is basically a classic in this game. Super OP damage, and it's just super nice team, but it really needs a lot of patience to actually have it, and a lot of time and resources. So yeah, so this is another team that you can go for. Let's see the Fly team. Fly team is an exception. It doesn't revolve like the others around the buffer, but it actually revolves around the debuffer, which is Reikyu, because of this main skill, which is Draco Meteor, that actually remove all the debuffs, all the buffs from the opposite team. So Fly team is good against teams that apply a lot of buffs instead, just to because of Reikyu's skill. So we call it a Fly team because we're gonna use Ho-Ho with him to make sure that he has the right support and doesn't die for at least for one turn. Ho-Ho has a lot of damage as well. And again, for the last spot, we're gonna use Tornadus because of his ground control. We don't have Tornadus right now, but we can use Tundrus as well, or get Tornadus from the shards. Where is he? He is here. You can get Tornadus as well. He's just OP in this team. For the meantime, if you don't have a full fledged Fly team, you can go for Yiftal. Yiftal is a nice cheap version of Rayquaza, and or Lugia for a nice cheap version of a Damager, a semi-tank instead of Ho-Ho, and Thundurus instead of Tornadus. So this is basically the end game team is basically Tornadus, Ho-Ho, and Raikou. So yep, I think we did Fly team. Let's move on to the next ones. Let's see, what else do we have? I think we've done pretty much all the end game teams that there is right now. We are gonna type teams basically, and we're gonna move straight away to semi-type teams. Semi-teams which are revolving around Celebi. Okay, so yeah. So all these teams that we are gonna talk about right now are not exactly a type, and we are using them just because they have a lot of damage and also because of the individual values of each Pokemon. But the problem is that these teams don't have buffers for their type right now. So example, Regigas, for example, I think is here somewhere. Regigas, yeah, Regigas is basically very overpowered Pokemon in terms of individual value. If you put him alone against any Pokemon, he'd probably win. And because we don't have a buffer for general Pokemons, we put him with Celebi to provide support. So you can pair him up with any other Pokemons. You can either go for damage again with Dialga or Palkia, since they have huge damage, but they get stunned each time they move. So you can use Celebi to prevent that, and this would be a nice endgame team if you want. And you can use either Moloeta if you want with it. That's why we call it semi-teams. It's not perfectly like a type team, but it will do just as fine. You can use Jirachi as well. It would do just fine. So this is semi-type teams. You can as well go for the Regi teams, which will include Regi Ice and another Pokemon which probably should be Regirock or Registeel. So this is a very tanky team, and you can use it at end game to defend your position in XVS, since it's really hard to kill them once they have like 2 or 3 turns to buff their special defense. Another Pokemon that we have forgotten to mention is actually Steelix. Mega Steelix, which is again a very nice Pokemon to have if you have the right personality. A very nice Pokemon to have to defend your positions. You can use him in a ground team, ground fire team with Groudon. He's really hard to kill unless you have the right type and you actually try to kill him in the first 2 or 3 moves before he buffs his special defense and B defense. So I think we covered pretty much all the teams that there is right now. We're just gonna go to the charts and talk a little bit about it. You can use Cresselia as well in Psy team with Mormuetta and maybe Guzzlord, so that would do a poison team. For poison, we don't have a buffer kind for now, but in the next update there will be buffers. There will be Nidoqueen and Nidoking. For ghost, there will be Origin Giratina. For insect, there will be Genesect. For bug, there will be Genesect. So those are other teams that we're going to be talking about in the next updates. So there are going to be a lot of new Pokemons that are really, really nice. So we're just going to cover that. Another reason, guys, we are going for type teams, and why we actually recommend to go for type teams is basically because of the service gyms. Because later on in the game, you're gonna need some Pokemons that use type teams, because you cannot use any. For example, this is a bug gym cross server gyms. And you can only use the bug type here. You can see that you can only use the bug type. That's why we prefer, guys, if you basically use type teams, that you will have an advantage over other people in cross server gyms, and you will max out your Z rings, which provides a lot of power really quickly. So I think this has been it, guys. You should be able to understand the simple principle that all endgame teams revolve around the buffer that provide extra stress to the team. So I think if you have that in mind, you can easily make any endgame team. If we have forgotten something, guys, please let us know. We will include it in new updates, and hope to see you guys soon. If you like this video, please hit like and share and subscribe to our channel. That would be a really huge moral boost to us. And thank you, and see you guys soon.